Thanks.
Well, it is good to see you all this morning, Jeff and Linda. Thank you for joining me with Unscripted today. I want to talk to you about so many things, and I kind of want to start with one thing that I feel like you have been really just consistent with, and just it seems like there's so much success with you all, is small groups.
Mm.
First of all, talk about yourselves and how long you've been at the church and what your history is with New Hope, and talk about your involvement in small groups, because ever since I can remember, even like the first time I ever stepped into this church, the first small group I ever went to, you all were doing it.
Really?
Yeah. And that was
It was
a year
memorable.
ago.
Oh, fish class.
Yes, it was. Yes.
I do remember you and Michelle
Yeah.
coming to fish class.
Yeah. So talk about yourselves, and talk about your history with New Hope, how you kind of walked into New Hope, how you all sort of embraced small groups, and let's take it from there.
Yeah, because that's exactly how it happened, right, Linda?
Absolutely. Our small groups are our extended family, I can tell you that. We started, what was it, the Prodigal God, Jeff?
Yeah, so that was a church-wide effort to drive participation in small groups. And Dan Palmer was an instigator of that. And so it was a church-wide study, The Prodigal God by Timothy Keller, and which is a study that I just loved. But and many in the church were doing the study at that time. But yeah, that's where our Sunday night group started.
And we've gone to the fish class pretty much as soon as it was something that was available for us, something for us to enjoy and participate in.
Yeah, and actually we were a little slow to that, because I specifically remember, we came to New Hope in 2007, just as Pastor Jerry was leaving and Pastor Jamie was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't jump right into small groups, to be honest. There was one particular person who I knew from attending Grace United Methodist. We attended there together, and his name was Kevin Bourne. I'm sure lots of people will remember Kevin and Jennifer Bourne. And Kevin says, man, that was kind of how he talked. Man, why don't you come to the fish class? Well, Linda's in choir and blah, 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 blah. I had all the excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
But he convinced me and he invited me. And that was why I went, was because I got that personal invitation from him. And we went to fish class, and Bobbitt and Lisa and Peyton and Cecil and Ron and Catherine Cosmas. They were the primary core group of leaders. And so, yeah, over time, we did help with leading some of the studies during that time. But yeah, it was a great time. Pastor Vicky was in that class too. She wasn't Pastor Vicky then.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned all those people, and I would say 95% of those people that were in your class went on to become youth volunteers. They worked with Passion students and heading up their own small groups. And
funny how that happens as their children grow up to be youth.
Yeah, but it's great because I think that speaks a lot about what you did with your small group and the engagement they had with it, and what you all did and how you developed a community, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to share it with their own kids and with the teenagers about how to do life with like that,
Right.
So that's really cool. How did you actually, you kind of talked about coming into New Hope, but what was it that made you want to come into, back then it was First United Methodist, but what was the sort of tick or the inspiration that said, yes, let's go to that place?
You want to tell it, or you want me to tell it?
Oh, go right ahead, honey.
So we were that couple that was, not feeling like our needs were being met at the church we were going to, which when I look back at that, on this side of that time, I realized it's not about us.
Mm-hmm.
But we did make a move, and I had previously engaged with a couple of gentlemen. I think they're still around at New Hope, Jeff and Stuart. You heard of them?
Yeah.
And because we were I was part of the building team down at Grace. And because of my background in technology, I was charged with taking care of the low voltage wiring and all of that kind of stuff, which rolled over from networks and phone systems into some of the music stuff, which I knew nothing about. But somebody said, hey, you ought to go up and check out, what Stuart and Jeff are doing up at New Hope and get some ideas, and maybe they can point you in the right direction and that kind of stuff. So I did that, and got to know both of those gentlemen a little bit. And when we decided a couple years later to make a move, I had remembered those connections, and Linda loved to sing, and now her voice plays tricks on her, so she doesn't necessarily enjoy it as much, but she loved to sing. And the first thing I did was, when we came to New Hope, was, I forgot about the other church we visited, didn't I?
That's okay. We don't need to talk about that. we
Story getting too long?
just enjoyed walking into New Hope, then First United Methodist. We made a lot of really good friends very quickly, and we were able to connect with a lot of things at that point in time. And it was a good move for us because we were able to get involved in other things.
And since then, it's been almost 20 years?
No, not quite. 13.
13. Okay. So
13 years.
We're
14.
going there in that direction, and that's good. But in that time, you have sort of, I guess, gave seeds to other small groups to get started, haven't you? Or helped to kind of move along, or at least you have transitioned to in other small groups and kind of built them into what they are today, right?
So I guess a couple of them. Way back when, I don't know, 2012, 13, 14 timeframe, Mark Tubb was really forming some critical mass of guys in the church to do more with the younger men. So we had United Methodist Men, strong group, but this was kind of kind of like the kids. You got children's church, kids church, and then you got youth group. We hadn't made it into the United Methodist Men yet, although they would have welcomed us with no problem. But we felt like for our own age bracket, we wanted to do some things. We were all still career people. And so he had various events that he had planned and that I participated in and helped him come alongside of him. And from that, we spawned off several small groups. A couple of them stuck for several years. I had a Friday morning men's group. Actually, we bounced around a little bit, Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning. But at the beginning of COVID, it just got too much and too tough. And we met at restaurants and that kind of thing. So I stopped that. And then Dan Palmer came to us a year or so.
August 2017.
August 2017. And did what?
He said, hey, I need you to help out with a small group for young families, and they just need to get started. So 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, we're still here.
And have most of the people that started with you, are they still connected to your group?
Yeah, actually.
Had a few of you new join.
Yeah, we had a few new, and I suppose if I think about it, there might be some that have, but I can't think of them off the top of my head if somebody's moved on. But we've had I think a really cool story through COVID and it was through an invitation of a neighbor, invited a couple and to Zoom with us. So we were meeting virtually all through COVID every Sunday morning, and they're very much part of our family. And now they've had to relocate to Miami. So they literally just told us that they were going to go to Pastor Vicky's, info session about becoming a United Methodist church member, and he got orders to move to Miami.
Oh.
So they and their three children moved to Miami, but they still Zoom with us.
Yeah. I had the privilege of joining you all a couple of weeks ago and got to meet them. And I think that's awesome. And I tell you what, too, just the way you all have embraced Zoom and the connections and just retaining that connection throughout this past year has been great, because a lot of people are struggling right now with small groups, and a lot of people are struggling to keep that connection. And I think for you all to keep connected with somebody who's actually been transferred away from our community and they're still involved with it speaks so much.
Yeah.
So
we got to figure that out, though. It'll be a challenge when we start going hybrid.
Right. And what's the plan for you all as far as a timeline on that?
I think when the kids go back to school, there's probably going to be some shifts and changes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as you can imagine, New Hope for Young Family, most of the people that attend our class have children.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet at 9:00. So right now bringing their kids would put an extra strain on the children's department, and that kind of thing. So I think we'll be waiting for all of that to get sorted out, probably around the time the kids go back to school.
And I guess pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, what are some of the activities that you do as a small group with the idea that you have a lot of young families? I mean, I know I've seen you all at the family retreats that we have, and that's really cool because you bring in a lot of people from your small groups for the family retreats that we have. What else do you all do?
We do a first Sunday lunch. Before COVID, every first Sunday, we would try to go and meet somewhere so that the families can interact, because before COVID, a lot of us knew that they all had kids, and we tried to do things. We would get together on occasion, have a pool party or go someplace, do an activity. But we have first Sunday lunch, and boy, I tell you, those kids are the ones to remind you that it's first Sunday lunch.
That's what's cool about it.
They enjoy getting out there, and they interact and talk to everybody. The class is very, very open about that. So that's one thing that we've done. We have also collected funds and done some things for different organizations that have needed help. So we've done that collectively, where everybody brings something in, make a bucket, send it out. And just we've done a game night, I think once, but
just try to support everybody. Somebody's moving or somebody needs a babysitter. There was a couple of recent baptisms in the last 2-3 months that we're part of our class, and just be there to support. But Linda's right. It's really funny, or it's amazing that the children like Ethan Mackey and Will Hanna are like, when's first Sunday lunch, Mom, Dad? And we want to go to lunch with the Sunday school class, and so that's kind of cool to do that. And
one of the other things too, during COVID, we met every week. The kids were around, so we included them in our discussion. We had a time for them at the beginning, and then at the end, somebody would do a story. A lot of times it was Erica. She would do a story for the kids, and they would have to, they were the ones that were involved in that. They answered the questions. They were the ones that, participated. So that was kind of cool too, to make sure that even during that time when they couldn't go to Sunday school, they were able to participate in something. And I think that made a difference. We also, I think one night we did a Zoom movie night.
Oh, wow.
So we those that could make it jumped on Zoom, and I think we watched I Can Only Imagine. I don't remember. There were
that Jeremy Camp movie.
Jeremy Camp movie.
Jeremy Camp.
but we couldn't get together, but we could still be together. And we do communicate weekly during the week. We have a Facebook page that we use to send out praises, to send out, prayer requests, or just, hey, look what's coming up this weekend. Maybe somebody wants to join me. So
Yeah,
it's trying to keep interaction going, not just on Sundays.
We do that.
great.
We do that with both our groups. I don't know if that's unique to us or not. I've never heard anybody else talk about it, but we have private Facebook group pages for our groups. And we use those extensively to communicate and talk about what's going on, share prayer requests and birthdays and anniversaries and all of that kind of stuff.
So if we're a new family with young children that are just now finding new hope, and we're seeing this for the first time, how do we get involved? How do we go about getting in touch and figuring out what we can do to get with this community? And should we feel intimidated? Because one thing about young families when they come into a church, they're first of all intimidated and overwhelmed by the fact that they have found a church that speaks to them and they feel good in. But to actually become a little more personalized with a small group becomes even more intimidating. Should they be? How do they get around that?
Well, they should very much be intimidated, first off.
He's kidding.
No, one of the biggest struggles with a group like this, and this is why we called it New Hope for Young Families. We didn't call it Young Marrieds. We didn't, because Linda and I are kind of mascots. Okay, we have young grandchildren, 6 and 3, but so we're not necessarily the age bracket or the place in life bracket that the class really intends to cater to, and that's really it. It's where are you in life, because there are people that are our age that still have young children, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade type of thing. And they're a blended family. There's blended families there, but there's still a young family that fits. That's where you are in this point of your life. So nobody's too old, nobody's too young. I used to say, if you use a pill organizer to sort your pills, you're too old for our class. Or the newest one was, if you've downsized your Hillsborough County issued garbage cans to the small ones, you're too old for our class. But so we accept everybody. We have young marrieds that don't have any children, and we have older marrieds that still have young children. It's young families that like to do stuff and want to support each other. And I guess the best way is to email us. And we'll be glad to talk to you, or I'll give you my phone number, however it works. We can do that at the end. How's that?
That's fine. That's fine.
All right. So get your pen out. Make sure you write it down.
I think one of the things too is I when people come into a new environment, I guess they're afraid to be transparent about what's real in their lives, and they feel like when you go to church, you've got to put on this sort of show. But the deal is, this is a group of people that are going through the same things you are, the same messes you are, the trials and tribulations of raising children and being a parent. It's nothing new. It's the same deal. And this is a community of people to relate to and to talk about it with, right?
Well, kind of as Jeff said, we have grandchildren, and some of our grandchildren are the same age as the kids in the class, and they can do things still together. And I've learned from them their mothering or parenting, and we've done things that I'm like, oh, I need to maybe change how I did it to fit now. So you're not, even at my age, we're not too young to still learn something from one of our fellow classmates, if you will. So,
well, something too. I think it's awesome that sort of you all being the point leaders of this are grandparents and have got a little more experience behind you, because it's been proven that when you have sort of that experience sort of leading the group, great things can happen, and that experience just overflows and shares with others. I mean, I hate to bring up an analogy like sports, but Tom Brady came to the Bucs with 20 years of experience and won him a Super Bowl in one season. You know what I mean? And maybe you guys can be that sort of, person and that couple that can at least give them that empowerment and that knowledge and experience to guide them through some of the experiences they're going through. So I think it's awesome.
No pressure. No pressure.
Don't downplay the fact that you all are grandparents and older, because I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Well, they need it.
One of the things Pastor Roberto preached a couple of weeks ago. I missed church this weekend. We were out of town, but Pastor Roberto preached a couple of weeks ago, and he talked a little bit about small groups during his message and during his sermon. And one of the things that I came away with and shared with Linda, she doesn't know I'm going to say this, and she's probably going to punch me in the nose when she sees me. I'm in Tennessee, by the way. She's in Valrico. We're not together.
Well, you can say this.
We're not together.
Yeah.
But if anybody has a small group or wants to start a small group, as long as it doesn't conflict with other groups that we're doing or other commitments that we have, we would be more than happy to come alongside them and help them incubate what they're doing. If they want to meet in their home, they want to meet at church, they want to have it with food, they want to have it without food, we'd be more than happy to come and just be supportive as they get their group started and get it down the road. If that takes 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, we'll be more than happy to do that.
Awesome. One of the things that you mentioned, which I really love seeing, is how small groups can get together and go out and do things together to help organizations, to help certain needs. And Jeff, you brought something to my attention last week, which was just outstanding. And I would like for you to share that with us right now, because I think it's great. And it's also a challenge.
Well, I think you should go back and edit this video, because I told you to take the idea and run with it, didn't I?
Well, I'm taking the idea and running with it. But I want you to just sort of explain how
You're
this
pulling me under the bus with you.
Percolated. Because I'm going to throw you underneath the bus anyways when I start talking about it. You might as well just get the job done for me right now.
and you can ask Linda, there's a lot of things that percolate up here. And she doesn't necessarily understand them all, but sometimes I just secretly go and do them. And this was one of those things that I said, I got to go to Lowe's. And I had this idea, and I shared it with our small group a few weeks ago. And I said, on Sunday night, that is, I said, there's 12 of us. And if we each contributed $2.50 or $5 per couple every week, in about 50 weeks, we would amass $1,500. And we could use that money. And I had thought about, we could do a scholarship or something like that. I was thinking college scholarships. And somebody in our group said, well, what about sending kids to camp? And I said, I think that's a great idea. I learned from walking, the fundraiser that recently did for youth and going to camp and going on a mission trip, it costs about $500 to send an 8-year-old to camp. That's a lot of money. But I get it. And I think we as a church are big enough that we can help these young families send their kids to camp. And so we could take that $1,500 in a year, and that could effectively sponsor 3 kids in total. Now we'll go ahead and give that money, to your fund, and you can use it the way that you best see fit, the kids that have the most need, or use it as a general thing. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to just be glad to be able to, turn in our offering at the end of the year, $1,500. And the challenge there, and let's see, Paul Brooks and Barbara and Paul Lancaster and Janice and Bill, Gower, Denise, Becky, and Ron Jordan. And I think there might be one or two more in their small group. My challenge is that small groups would adopt this, not only raise the money, but we would challenge other small groups to do the same thing. So
And then,
Paul, Bill, Becky, and whoever else is in your group, you are challenged to raise $1,500 or more to give to the youth department next year. So there. And that's the truth.
And that's unscripted.
Yep, that's unscripted. That was a challenge to all of you, and I will be around to follow up with that challenge and to back that challenge up for you all. So I think it's great, and I think it's awesome that small groups would even consider it or take the time. And students do need it; they do, and now more than ever, because we're finding that a lot of students and their families have been impacted this past year. And the choice of going to camp or doing a mission trip this summer was based on what happened this past year. It's unfortunate. So if we can help them out some way, somehow, then great. And next year will not be any different. In fact, hopefully by next year, we will grow our numbers to wanting students to go to camp that are going to reach the fringes of these children and these youth. Hopefully some of them from the basketball church community will come. We have some youth from our Hispanic congregation coming.
Yeah.
And they need help. Bottom line, they need help. So it's appreciated. And we love the fact that you took the time to think about us and are doing this. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for our youth.
It's an honor. I love it. And I love it when people take note that the youth are that important that they want to do something like that for them. Because
I'll be honest with you, we would have been oblivious to it if it weren't for our involvement with New Hope for Young Marrieds, because that's really what drove us to even go and participate in the walk.
Yeah.
To support. And that's, that's where we learned, that it's not cheap. And it's important. It's vitally important that these kids get to camp. I never had it. I guess I did have an away camp once when I was little and I was violently ill, but that was because I was 19 years old and they couldn't cut the umbilical cord from my mother yet. So it's pretty bad.
And I went to camp as a kid. Every opportunity we got, we went, and it was an awesome experience. Can't say I remember a lot of the people anymore from there, but I do remember the different things that we participated in, and that was something that was special.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about Warren Willis and just what it does for these kids is it not only serves its purpose as that summer camp for these kids, but it also helps them grow and they get to a point where they get into high school. And it's not like they get too old for camp. What happens is they sit there and start thinking about, how can I become a camp counselor once I graduate? And we've had almost 7 students go on to be camp counselors at Warren Willis in the past 4 years.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's what it does. It just starts to prep you for other things in your life, and it starts early, and it's great. So you're helping that out. So thank you.
Well, and you mentioned that, and another thing that excites me, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've heard there's a couple of our young people that have maybe even moved on from youth now, but are feeling out if they have that call in their life to go into the ministry. And man, I think that is, number one, so wonderful and such a blessing to New Hope. If we can support, those kids that come back and say, and I say kids, I know, they're college students, but right. Those young people that come back and say, yes, I do have a call in my life. I really hope that we as a church will celebrate that and support them and and ride along on the journey with them.
Yes.
And then maybe they can be in the ministry right here in Brandon.
Yep. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
It all starts with plugging them in when they're young.
Yep. Absolutely. And you speak of those students, and I couldn't be more proud of them right now. And I'm trying to get them back every chance I can to speak into the youth, to tell them their journey. It's been kind of hard because of the past year and their schedules, but they're doing what they can to get back here, and they've made some commitments to me, so I'm going to hold them to it. But I think it's all, if you get them back in here and you start just putting them in those kind of key situations and maybe giving them some responsibility, then they're going to remember their roots here, and I think that's going to help them kind of come back here a little bit too. So
yeah, that's what we pray.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to talk about today, and I don't want to go too much into it because I personally, I don't know how you do it, Jeff. And I know behind every man there's a great woman. But you are the chairperson for SPR, right? Is that what?
That's true.
Your official title? Okay, yeah. I don't know how you do it. I wouldn't want your job. I wouldn't want that role. But I'm just being honest. I wouldn't. It's too much. There's too many things. And in this past year,
do you know something that I don't know, Chris?
When you've had like the worst opportune time to step into that position, but you did it, and you've done a great job, and you've managed to get us through a season in this world that we never expected, and here we are, and I think we're doing pretty good. Could you kind of give us some celebration moments here, at least in your own opinion, in the past year, because you had a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Well, number one, I'm not the only person on SPR, so I have a lot of wonderful help, and I think we have over the last 2 years, we've had a year and a half or whatever, we've had really good teams of folks that have been part of SPR, and as far as, when I look back at what's happened over the last 18 months or so, and maybe even, go back a little bit further, no, I guess 18 months, but when I look back at the events that happened, there's no question in my mind that I see God's fingerprints all over it. It's been good. It's been bad. It's been pleasant. It's been ugly. It's been easy and it's been hard. And not everybody agrees, and I respect that, and that's okay. We're never going to make everybody happy. Try as we might. Mm-hmm. But I think Pastor Riley was God's plan for us. I think him staying on another year, us not getting a pastor appointed to us in the first round, was all part of God's ordained plan. I'm not necessarily a big believer in predestiny, but I believe God used those events. Let's put it that way. And I like the analogy of life kind of being like a open diary with nothing written on the pages until it happens, and we're writing it, and God can use those events. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen happen in Pastor Vicky's life over the last year or so, Roberto and Yamale, I'm blown away. And going back to my comment earlier about being excited about those young people that are at college right now that are discerning if there is a call on their life, and being able to hold on to them. Think about, Pastor Vicky, and we were able to tell a little bit of her story and her background for those that weren't here to know it. Coming to New Hope in 1996 or something like that. I don't remember all of the years and dates, but feeling the call on her life, and I don't think I'm stepping out of line when I share that. I know there are people at New Hope that supported her in her education and helped her on her journey, and how excited they must be that she's becoming our senior pastor. So I am probably proud to a fault of her and Roberto and Yamale, and I am so excited about what's next for New Hope. And again, I'm probably too proud and just need to be knocked down a notch, because I'm kind of walking on sunshine when I think about it, and I shouldn't be. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but there
no, you did. You did. And
can I say something too?
Absolutely.
Because those pastors have done an outstanding job. There's no question. But we also have a great staff that support them behind the scenes as well. Not everybody's up front, but we're fortunate during COVID to have a staff that still came together to make things happen.
Yeah.
In all of the ministries that we have, and volunteers.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Just people rise up to the occasion with volunteering.
Yeah, and I think we need more volunteers. I really do. I think when we start to make tracks and get going, I think people get excited. The vision gets casted. I hope people will step up and say they want to be a part of it. And one thing that I've learned is don't wait for a specific opportunity. Just go. And as awkward as it might be, and we did that a few weeks ago and showed up at basketball church and told AJ, use us. Don't know what we're here to do, but do something with us. Mm-hmm. Just go and do it. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up in churches and not get plugged in, is they're kind of waiting for that perfect opportunity, or waiting for all of the stars to align so that they can plug in. Just kind of force your way in and do it.
Let me ask you this, because you said, I don't want to get my sunshine knocked down, or what was it? You said something like that. I don't remember, but I'm going to knock that sunshine.
Walking on sunshine.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take you right off that sunshine real quick.
Good. Now walk like an Egyptian.
This is a question I want both of you to answer, but I want your separate opinions on this, separate perspectives.
Sorry, the doggies are making.
Where is it you feel where we need the most help? I'll let you answer that first, Linda. Like, where do you think this church is suffering the most? Its struggle.
Oh, that's a hard one. I do think that what we just said as far as volunteers, getting involved, seeing a need, maybe there isn't a invitation to come and do, but seeing a need and being somebody that supports the church regardless. Doing this for me is way outside of my comfort zone, just so you know. My nephew's in town this week, and last night he was kind of giving me some, you can do it, and I said, this is just way outside of my comfort zone. Teaching is way outside of my comfort zone. I like to be behind the scenes. That's where I feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. But over, I guess the last few weeks with the Be Bold, What's Next, God, it's really spoken to me. So be a volunteer, help out Sunday mornings, do check-in. I've met a lot of people that I don't think I would have met. Have a small group. There's a lot of people that are good family friends now in our small groups that I don't know if I would have crossed paths with them. I wouldn't have known that I had something in common with them. Mm-hmm. So those are I can't specifically say, is it children's ministry? Is it youth ministry? Is it Meals on Wheels? We have so many that are available. Maybe that's overwhelming to people. Pick one, get involved. If it's not your thing after you do it, say, hey, this isn't where I need to be, but thanks for letting me have the opportunity to try. And then step into something else, because, we're all busy. It doesn't matter what age you are, you're busy doing something. Even sitting at home reading, you're busy. But get out and do something, because, walking with the youth, there were some that I don't know very well, but I got the opportunity to talk to them. Not a long time, but a little bit. They were passing me in the passing lane. But basketball church was another thing. I like basketball, but why would I go? I'm not going to play. That's not it. But it was very interesting to interact with some of the kids there. We got to serve hot dogs to them that night. That was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
But God will use you if you step up and say yes.
What do you think, Jeff? Where do you think we struggle the most here in this church, and what do you look forward to as maybe getting out of that this year?
Well, I want to remind you of something Pastor Riley said and continues to say. We're a great church. He has taught many of us. He has reminded many of us that we are a great church, that and our God is bigger than any of the problems that we do have. We're not a perfect church, because, as Pastor Riley would say, we're a family, and families are inherently screwed up. So we have lots of flavors, more flavors than Baskin Robbins to pick from.
Yes,
but I've been reading a book, and I'm not a big reader. I admit I usually fall asleep. I tried reading on the plane last night, and it lasted about 20 minutes before I fell asleep. But it's on Right Now Media. It's called Jesus in a Secular World. Mm-hmm. And it's by a young man, forgive me for not knowing his name. I believe it's Ben. Can't think of his last name, but he's a rock star. Mm-hmm. He's from a band called No More Music or something like that, or Music No More or something. And comes from a very evangelical upbringing. His parents were missionaries in Amsterdam and New Zealand, Australia, neck of the woods. And everything that, he's talking about is based on the first thing, which is praying people. And we've got to be praying earnestly, and I need to do better at it. I'm talking to myself as much as anybody, but we got to be praying. And I know that's kind of the easy answer out, but I believe it's true. It talks about how we think about other churches and we see them from afar and we go, wow, what are they doing? That is so awesome. Mm-hmm. It's so cool what they're doing. We got to find out what that recipe is and do it here so that we can be awesome too. And it resonated with me when he said that's not the answer. Right. The answer is engaging the Holy Spirit to bless what we have to work with and who we have to work with, and being willing to do it. So, I could say it's, I'm not even going to say any of the departments or anything, because that would be unfair. And I would have, if I said one, I would have to say them all. But I think we have a great team. We have a lot of great things going for us. We talk about being bold and what's next. And I think we got to continue following Pastor Vicky's lead and really getting on our knees and being earnest about the prayer life that we have, and really, really asking the Holy Spirit to bless and lead us.
Yep. Sounds good. Yep. I think it's John Wesley that once said, if you light a fire, they will come from miles to watch it burn.
Hmm. Yeah. So, well, we need a fire then.
Yeah. Passion.
That's right.
Fire.
That's right. That's right.
Well, to wind things up, if like I was asking you earlier, if a young couple comes in and a young family comes in, they want to get connected with you all, how do they do that?
I'm going to give Linda's email address.
Okay. And her personal cell phone number?
I think the easiest way, yeah, because otherwise I'd have to spell mine out. So L Sheffer 87. I guess I have to spell Sheffer, Sheffer. So L Sheffer 87 at gmail.com. And I'm sure by now everybody knows how to spell Gmail.
And if you have any questions too, you can just contact me at chris@findnewhope.com, and I will pass on the information to Jeff and Linda. Y'all, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome. I appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time.
Chris. Appreciate you.
And I appreciate all that you're doing with your small group, especially to help out kids and youth ministries and their endeavors for camp and mission. And I think you all are doing a great job. And, you know, this Sunday is Celebration Sunday. And, you know, I know we are intending to celebrate our pastors, and I think we should celebrate our leaders as well. So you all are great leaders, and I do appreciate you and value you. And I thank you for joining us today.
Well, you're too kind. Thank you.